Well, hey everyone, this is Bob from Hot Rock Central, and in today's video I'm going to do a system tour. I had a request from a member over in my Gab Solar group, and he wanted to see all the stuff I had here and a little bit how it goes together. So that's what I'm going to do. And it's a pretty unusual system in that I've got two inverters in here. One runs during the day and the other one at night. One's a 48 volt and the other one's a 24 volt. So that makes for quite an unusual system, like I don't think you'll see anywhere else on YouTube. And it's quite complex too, let me tell you. And I guess we'll start off with, I'll get into the center pieces of the system, which are the inverters. And there you go. That's my 6 kW 24 volt inverter from Gentry Solar. And I've got the same inverter over there, except that one's a 48 volt. And I just got this set up yesterday. This is my original first inverter that I ever had when I first started getting into solar. That's a 4 kW 24 volt inverter, which had been sitting on the floor ever since I got in my Gentry Solar inverter. And it's just been collecting dust. And I figured, well, if I have any issues with this inverter here breaking down on me, I've got this backup inverter here I can hook up and put into service, but it's going to take some time to do it. And I figured, well, why not go ahead and get it done all ahead of time? That way I don't have to spend the time doing it and have to deal with all the headaches. So anyways, it's all set up and ready to go. Take the place of this if I have a problem with that. And I've got this big old 100 amp knife switch right here so I can switch back and forth between inverters if I need to. Now we'll go on from here to I would call my most valuable tool of the system, and that's my crimping tool. And what's good about this thing is it's got a little push button there, and these heads rotate for different size lugs. So I can go from like a number 6 lug all the way up to like I think about 2/0 on this crimper right here. And I couldn't say there's anything more valuable in a solar system than this tool right here, because I've got hundreds of lugs in this system, and it wouldn't have been possible to do that with just any old crimper. And this thing's been terrific. And let's see, we got, then from there, I got all these chargers right here, these 420 amp grow watts. And this one right here is charging my Tesla battery right down here on the floor. And the other 3 are for my lithiums right there. And you can't see it really, but there's 6 AGMs down there on the floor, 100 amps each, and 3 sets of strings. And that's good for about 150 amps at 50% discharge. And then there's my 300 amp lithium, and there's a 280, and there's a 300. And over here I've got a compression box ready to go for my next batch of lithiums. And I don't know when that's going to be, because I've got this Tesla actually up for sale, because it's really more of a hassle to have this in my system than it would be to have just another lithium pack. So I've got that up for sale, and hopefully the sale on that will give me enough to fill this thing up with batteries. Now, these grow watts here, these things are bulldogs. These things just put out all kinds of power, and they just seem to go on and on, and they don't give me any trouble like Victrons have. I've burned up 4 Victrons since I've gotten into the solar thing, and not one of the grow watts of these 8 that I have here have given me any trouble whatsoever. So I'm real happy about these grow watts. They've been giving me good service. The only thing is these grow watts are like super simple, and they're so incredibly cheap compared to most other chargers, and that's probably the reason why they're so simple. Because they only read out on the display, which I would hope they would read out more, but they don't. They only show you the volts. I'd like to see something like the amps being put out, or the solar panel voltage, stuff like that on the display. But the grow watts don't do any of that. So I mean, it's like really annoying to have to push buttons to find out what the amps is, or the solar voltage and all that kind of stuff. So I said, the heck with it, man. I'll just buy meters, and where I can monitor it, without having to do all that. So as you see up there, I've got meters all along the top of the grow watts there, and that tells me exactly what my panel voltage is coming into those grow watts. Same thing over on the 48 volt system. Then underneath, I've got amp meters, and that tells me just exactly how much power is coming out of the chargers into the batteries or the inverter or whatever. And same thing over there on the 48 volt system. And then all the panel power that comes into the shed here, that the first thing it hits when it comes in is these sets of breakers here. There's a set right there, and there's a set right there, and then it's all distributed in various ways into the system. And to start off with, all my panel negatives, whether it's for the 48 volt system or the 24 volt system here, they're all tied together. They're not separated to each charger like most people would do it. All the negatives are tied together. The 48 volt bus bar is right there, and the 24 volt bus bar is right there, and both of those are connected together by this wire right here, which goes over here to this amp meter that tells me, because this is a bidirectional system, I can have power coming in this way or power going out that way. This amp meter will tell me what's going on with the power going through this wire right here. And sorry about the red on that, because this is a negative, but it was the only wire I had that was long enough to make the reach, so you'll just have to live with that. So anyways, from there, on the 24 volt system, I've got all my chargers daisy chained from the main negative bus bar. All my chargers are daisy chained from that. And because I was suspicious about there being some kind of loss, even with all this heavy wire right here, that there would be some loss towards the end of the line there. So what I did is I took another wire and I backfed it into the last negative bus bar there, and I wasn't really all that sure whether or not there was any loss, being daisy chained like that. So what I did is I strapped a amp meter to the backfeed wire to find out if there was any current coming in on that, and sure enough there was. And I've got a amp meter on my main bus bar over here telling me just how many amps is going through that negative bus bar. And when that up there is reading 60 amps, I'll see 15 amps coming in through the backfeed wire here. So that was a good idea, adding that backfeed wire there, because I was getting some loss going through this daisy chain here. So anyway, that's how I do my negatives on my system. And the reason why I do that is because I've got to transfer power back and forth. Seeing I have two systems, I need to transfer power back and forth from one system to another. And because if I didn't have all the negatives tied together like they are right now, what I'd have to do, with the way I transfer power, is with these knife switches here. And what I'd actually have to do is I'd also have to include the negative in the switching, which would add tons and tons of more wiring. And you can see from up there, I mean, it's already a spaghetti mess as it is. And just adding that much more wires was just too much for me to handle. So I decided to do this, and it's been working out well, and I don't have any problems with it so far. Now, because I've got more solar panel power than what I've actually got in chargers that can accept that power, at least technically by the specs, although these grow watts here, I think you can feed as much power into them as you can possibly think of, and they just seem to go. Nothing bothers them. But anyways, being as it may, if they were sensitive to input, I'd have to be able to control the power going into them, and that's what I use this here for. This is solar sensing switches, and there's some photosensors on the roof there that tell these sensors here what the light intensity is. And if the sun dives behind a cloud, what it'll do is it'll activate these contactors here, and it'll add more power to my system. So anyways, being that I've got to transfer power back and forth depending on which system needs it the most, I have all these knife switches plastered all over the place here, as you see right there. And for example, this one right here, this one operates the Tesla. And towards the end of the day, when I'm just switching over to the 24-volt system is when it uses the most power. And the Tesla here will not activate and send out any power until the lithiums drop down to a certain voltage level. So there's no need for the charger to be on the Tesla, because the Tesla's not going to be using any power or sending any power out anyways. So what I do is I shut off the power going into the Tesla from the panels, and then I've got a wire here that feeds up from this this bus bar strip and feeds into that knife switch up there, and it diverts power from this bus bar over to the next positive bus bar on the 24-volt system, so I can take the power from this Tesla charger and feed it to that. Now this particular knife switch right here is controlled from my 48-volt system, and as you see, I've got some Frankenstein knife switches right here, and this column meter here tells me what the charge is on my lead acid batteries, and if it's still charging but it's pretty close to being full, I can take one of these legs here and disconnect this charger here, because it's probably not going to be putting out anything anyways, and just lift up on that, disconnect it, and there's a wire here feeding from that positive bank over to that knife switch up there. And as soon as I disconnect this and connect that, then I'm sending power into my 24-volt system. But then if I have a full charge on my lead acid bank, I can lift up both of these here, and this knife switch right here combines both of these positive bus bars, and all 10 strings, and it'll send it through that same wire up to that knife switch there and into my 24-volt system. So I have a lot of diversity here on where I can send my solar panel power to. And these are my most powerful solar panels, because these are on my trackers, and there's 2 strings on each tracker. So I've got six of these right here, and these are all coming from my trackers. These are the ones that give the most power into the system. Now, let's see, what else have we got here? Well, now after the power is made and sent through the system, it's traveling over here to these heavy-duty bus bars, and then that gets fed into a transfer switch here, and this transfer switch controls which system is running, whether it's the 48 or the 24-volt system. And then from there, then it goes into another set of heavy-duty bus bars, and then that gets fed up into my kilowatt meter here, so I can keep track of how much power I'm making every month. And before it heads into the main power system, I can see exactly what the voltage is, how many amps is being used, what kind of watts I'm using, and so I got a pretty good eye on everything that's going on here. And I just got this in. This is I'm not using this for the voltage, but I got this just for the hertz on it, because each one of these inverters here has a fine tuning adjustment for the hertz, and I wanted to be sure what I was seeing on the inverters was actually what was going out on the system. So I got a hertz meter here, and as you can see, it's just about perfect. And let's see what else we got here. Now the all the inverters here I have on breakers here. There's a breaker for my backup system here, and there's a big old hefty 400 amp breaker for my 24 volt inverter, and down there on the floor is another inverter for the 48 volt system, which only uses about half the current of this system right here, so that breaker down there doesn't need to be as big. Now let's see what else we got here. Okay, now all these two systems, this one here runs at night, and this one runs during the day. So this comes on at about 7 o'clock in the morning and runs to about 6 o'clock at night, and this one comes on at about 6 o'clock at night and runs to about 7 in the morning. And how they do a dance between each other and turn each other on and off is a feat in itself. I've got a timer here that turns this inverter on when it needs to and turns it off. Same thing for the 24 volt inverter right there. Now what happens is when the time for the inverters to make the change happens, is I've got timers on all my equipment that uses compressors, the refrigerators, freezers, the air conditioners, and all that. So all the timers on them shut everything down for about 5 minutes while the thing's being transferred to take the load off the system, because what you want to do is you want to have as little load as possible when you're transferring power, because of the relay here. If you transfer power under a heavy load, those contacts will arc pretty heavily, and it won't be long before you have to replace your relay. So I always reduce the consumption of my power during the transfer for that reason, so that these relays will last a good long time. And I've had these here for years, and they haven't given me any trouble yet, so apparently it's working good. Now the power I'm getting for the 48 volt system here is coming from lead acid batteries, and I've got a huge cabinet out on the other side of the wall there with 24 size 4D, is it 4D? Yeah, it's 4Ds, which are equivalent to about like twice the size of a regular car battery. And each one of those batteries is good for somewhere between 160 and 200 amps. So I've got 24 of those out there that is feeding this system, and because they're outside and sensitive to heat and cold, I've got a temperature control that cabinet out there, and I do that with a blower motor right there that feeds into that cabinet. And there's a thermostat here, and when this goes above 86 degrees, it kicks in that fan motor there and sucks the air conditioning out of this shed and passes it through the box and cools those batteries down. At the same time, there's also a gas sensor detector in that cabinet, and when the hydrogen and sulfur levels get too high in there, it'll also kick on that fan motor and clear out all those fumes. So it does both functions as far as keeping the fumes down and keeping the temperature down. But then on top of that, I've got to keep them warm in the wintertime, so I've got 10 heating pads underneath the batteries, which are 17.5 watt plant starter heating mats. And so there's 10 of them, and it's about 175 watts, and it keeps the batteries above 70 degrees on the coldest day. You know, if it's 20 degrees out, the batteries would be at least 70 degrees or more. So that works out pretty good. The only thing is what I hate about this system is it's sucking all my valuable cold air out of the shed here, and these air conditioners have to work a little extra harder to keep the shed cooler. So at some point, I'm going to be getting rid of the 48 volt system as soon as I can find a buyer for that battery bank out there, and put it into some more batteries for this. And eventually I'm going to be going just to the 24 volt system because basically because of the battery issue. You know, a 16S lithium battery pack is like well over 200 pounds, And you know, once you put it together, you got to set it and forget it. If you ever need to move it or work on it or something like that, you got to take the darn thing apart just to do anything with it. With a 24-volt battery pack, it's a little over 100 pounds. I do some grunting toting it around, but I can move it and work on it and do what I need to do. So that's the reason why I decided to switch from a 48-volt system to a 24-volt system, just for that reason alone, just for the battery weight. So, but I can't do that until I get some more batteries in the system here, because right now I've got just 4 battery banks, and this inverter right here at full load will draw 300 amps, although I don't usually ever get anywhere close to that. But even still, I have to take into account if I'm drawing 300 amps off of 4 battery banks, you're talking about 70 amps in that neighborhood coming off each of these banks, which is a pretty hefty load for these banks here, which I would definitely not want to put them through. So what I've got to do is I've got to beef up my battery bank here, and this Tesla actually here is up for sale, and the money that I get from it, if it ever sells, will be going to put some batteries in this compression box that I already have prepared for the next batch that I get whenever they come. So and the 48-volt bank is up for sale too, but they're going for about three grand. So anyways, if I can get these batteries sold here, I'll have enough battery power to give me enough battery banks where I'm not drawing such a heavy load off of each bank. I figure I'm going to need at least another 15 kW before I can even consider going solely to a 24-volt system. Now let's see, what else we got to go over here. Now once the power leaves here from this part of the shed and goes over to the main feed for the house wiring, it comes over here and it gets tied in again with these real heavy duty bus bars here, and this is the power transfer relay right here that switches between the grid and the solar. And this technically is only a 40 amp relay, but I beefed the thing up. As you can see there, I added another silver braid to the already existing braid, which as you can see is pretty thin. And it's probably, if it's good for 40 amps, I'd really be surprised, because it doesn't look like it's able to handle that much. So I added the extra braid, and the contacts themselves are pretty heavy duty. So I'm pretty sure that this thing can handle the load that I'm sending through it, and it hasn't given me any problems in the years that I've had it. So I guess I did right. I don't think I've got anything else to add to this video here. I think that about covers it. So anyways, hope you enjoyed the tour, and if you have any questions or anything like that, just leave them down in the comment section, and I'll answer them as soon as I see them. And thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you on the next one.